He's a seasoned legal practitioner who has been called to the Nigerian bar and several other bars across the world, in America, Canada, Australia, and so forth. We cannot at this point have any other person address us, speak to our issues, and speak about his policies other than His Excellency, Prince Adewole Adebayo. Please help me with a round of applause to welcome him to the podium. Please keep clapping. I know your hands are busy. But keep clapping. Thank you very much.
All my life, I've always been listening to women. So, and in the early part of my life, the women who were talking to me did not want me to talk back. They always wanted me to do what they asked me to do. I grew up, and I'm here today. The person you see in front of you is the product of a woman, and it's the product of women. Even from mentioning my name as Prince Adewole Adebayo, one particular history you need to know about us in Ondo is that we are one of the few kingdoms in the world where we are princes because we came from a woman who founded the kingdom. The Ondo Kingdom was founded by a woman, and our first monarch, our first ruler was a woman, and we inherited the royalty from her. Also, I'm one of the few people who grew up not just with my mother. I didn't grow up with my grandmother. I grew up with my great-grandmother. I was trained when I opened my eyes and I started growing up. The person who was my mother was actually my great-grandmother. So that was the person who taught me how to read and write, how to live. It was after she passed away that I became the child of my grandmother. And I became an adult while my grandmother was alive. And I thought my mother was my sister because I lived with my grandmother. So I know the importance of the role of women. The time I started primary school, I was regarded in my school as a wonder kid because I could read, I could write, I could do everything because my grandmother had taught me how to do that. So it shows that even a school system is not at its best if the women of that community are educated. You will have a good start. Now, why are women having to search for good government? That is the challenge of Nigeria. Look at your colleagues all over the world. They don't have to search for good government. The good government is already there. We are having to search for good government in Nigeria because we have managed to produce leaders in a society where power, authority is approximating ego and approximating personal importance. Whereas a government should be like a housewife. If you want to have a government that will work in Nigeria, you have to fashion the government like a housewife. That government will wake up and think of how will people eat? How will the children dress up? How will they go to school? And once they go to school, you start to think, when they come back, what will they eat? Who will pick them up from school? Who will do any of these things? A government that plans and thinks. So in the way I approach governance, women have a major role to play because I grew up well taken care of In fact, my attitude to governance arose from the fact that I grew up in innocence. The frailty and problems of government when I was growing up did not affect me that much because of the family from which I arose. And my aim, therefore, is to make sure that however long I stay in power or in government, whether long or short, I empower families. Because failure to empower families is the problem of Nigeria. And if you want to empower families, you have to empower women. And I'm also an employer of labor. I became an employer of labor when I was 22 years old. And I've been employing people over time. So in the course of time, I've employed women and I've employed men. And if you find out from organizations that I've been running for many years before I thought I would be in politics, 80 to 85% of my managers are women. And it is not because they know how to dress elegantly, that's not the reason. It's because they know how to manage and they know how to care. So the tragedy of Nigerian politics, you can talk of it in terms of development, in terms of economy, but the truth of the matter, if we need to be honest to ourselves, is that the Nigerian society and the Nigerian government don't look alike. In Nigerian society, the women carry the burden and the women run the show. But in Nigerian government, the men take everything. Therefore, if you want to know the manifesto of your political party, if you want to know, I have on my campaign, Professor Olufemilade is a first-class political scientist. Senator Uba is a first-class political scientist in Canada, in Nigeria. He's been well-trained. And I have many experienced people. But if you want to know how to draw the manifesto of a political party, if you are new to politics, just listen to the prayers of women. What women pray about in the churches and the mosque and at home, that is the summary of the problem of the country. When you come to a gathering or a church or anywhere, and the women are praying for the miracle of employment, you know that there's unemployment in that society. That's why women come to church and they are praying and go to the mosque and pray for jobs. Where women pray for safety, you know that that society is not secure. So if we can listen to women, we will know the problem of Nigeria and solve them. Now, let me show you that not only have I been listening to women all my life, that in the course of my campaign, I've also listened to the women. And this is what is making me to run for president, and you will understand. So if what I say on this stage is an answer to your prayers, then you will know that I've been listening to women. The first thing that we need in this country, one, we need secured neighborhoods. We need secure streets. We need security across the country. And the approach that women take is the approach of how not to be a victim and how members of their family will not be a victim. And since we started having serious insecurity in this country, we've been having over time, since after the Civil War, But since we start having serious insecurity at the level of wartime kind of insecurity, the women are the principal victim. Why? When terrorists want to recruit foot soldiers, they go to vulnerable families and pick their children. When the government wants to recruit policemen, soldiers, airmen, naval men, civil defense, they go to vulnerable families and pick their unemployed graduates. So when you hear that soldiers have killed 100 bandits, those bandits, they have wives and children and mothers. When you hear on the other side that bandits have killed policemen, those policemen have widows and orphans that they're leaving behind. So what the government needs to do, and I've advised the government several times that when we are in government, this is what we're going to do. We are going to take intelligence seriously. We are going to remove businessmen from this issue of fighting insecurity. The problem of insecurity in Nigeria, and I've said it many times, and I'm saying it to the women now, is the long understanding between government people who are giving billions every month to maintain security and the contractors that are working with them to see that this kind of money continues for a long time. So in our government, we are going to ensure that we take the perspective of a mother and say this war has to end. It's not a business. That's our number one. Number two, the women are worried about poverty. The women don't want to have to beg, to have to humiliate themselves to cater for their family. And how do you do this? Sorry, I need to explain to you what happened there. Senator Uba, please come and explain yourself 1 second as you go. The reason why Senator Uba is going is because he listens to his wife. His wife says he should come. So please, come over here. Because for him to come today, I had to call Madam, and Madam released him for a limited amount of time. But let him say something before he leaves. Yes. Please, let me, just 1 second.
One of the men is that they said, any man that, all the men that are controlled by their wives, that they should all step out. So virtually everybody came out. And only one man was standing. So the moderator said, why are you still there? So can you tell us a secret? How you were able to resist your wife? He said, my wife told me not to come out. This will tell you the power of women. Women are the pillar of the society. In any society. And when you watch, when women are in charge, things move on smoothly. You realize that during the COVID, it was countries where women were in charge, they had minimum problem. New Zealand, Sweden, name them, where women were prime ministers. So any nation that ignores women are doing that at their own peril. Because once you educate the woman, you educate the nation. We cannot do, if you watch, we are talking about, Rwanda. We are celebrating Rwanda everywhere. You realize that 50% of the parliament are occupied by women. That's why things are moving. Women are the most important members of the society. So any country that neglects them, they are doing that at their own peril. So this candidate has a very high regard for women. And I'm sure that once you give him the opportunity, you will see the women in our society will be well respected, and they will have their due place in society. So I'm happy to be here. I wanted to escape him, but I had an urgent call, which I must answer. Contrary to the candidates, my wife is not asking me to leave this place. Well, I should be happy that I'm here, because this is my wife's constituency. And anything we'll do to better the fate of the women, she will support it. Adia, I must thank you for organizing this forum. This is an opportunity for our women to ask questions. The state of the country now demands that every candidate must be interrogated. You must listen to every single one of them. Let them tell you what they will do for the country, not only what they will do for the women, but what they will do for the country. You also investigate their background. Think about the antecedents. What have they done in the past? What are they likely to do today? Because women are very important stakeholders in this country. And the moment we start recognizing them, the better for Nigeria. And I pray that this will not stop here. Please continue interrogating the candidates. Every single one of them. Not issue of who is the front runner or back runner. Invite the candidates and talk to every single. Because the problem of Nigeria is so important for all of us that we must solve it. Our children should stop running away from this country. Dying in the high sea, dying in the desert. When we went to school, when I finished my studies in Canada, I was rushing to come back to Nigeria. But the reverse is the case now. Those in Nigeria are rushing to leave the country. I remember a woman who went to visit. Said, do what you can so that my children will start coming back. They go run out of the country. Most families in Nigeria today, do your investigation, have lost their children. They are not coming back here again. So it's important that women will do all they takes to make sure that our children start coming back. Nigeria has whatever it takes to be one of the wealthiest nations in the country. We have both the human, material, and all sorts of resources. You realize that all these countries we are celebrating today, we are depending on Nigeria to survive. Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea. These are people who are coming to Nigeria for aid. University of Ibadan Teaching Hospital was where people were coming for medical tourism. That will tell you how far we degenerated. So I must congratulate you. Continue what you are doing so that we get the best candidate that will solve this problem. It's no sentiment. We want solution. We want our country to triumph. Thank you very much.
How much money the man makes. It's about how responsible the man is. Because a man who earns 5 million naira a month, you can find that the children are not going to good schools, that the wife doesn't ride a good car, that he doesn't pay his rent sometimes, and the other man who earns 500,000 a month, the wife will ride a good car. He will pay his rent on time. So a responsible husband, women know the meaning of a responsible husband, and they know the meaning of an irresponsible one. So far, to this point, we've been running our government like an irresponsible husband. We are making more money than the countries that our people are running to. The amount of money that Nigeria has lost in the month of October that has not finished is enough to put a roof over the head of every family in Nigeria. The amount of money that NNPC is losing every month is enough to put every child in school from primary to university. The amount of money we are losing in 3 months is enough to tar all the roads in Nigeria. So this is what I'm coming to stop. There's nothing complicated there. You need compassion. You need care. There is nothing that we are looking for in government that we don't have. The Accountant General, I went to his hometown last week, who stole 109 billion in one day. I went to his hometown because I wanted to see the hometown of this man who can take 109 billion. There's nothing there. It's between Kano and Gumel. You call the place Gezawa, you go there. That's where it comes from. No electricity, no road, no nothing. But what do you have? You have a place he built for himself. He's the only man happening there. But there's no road to the place. So is it because he doesn't know accounting? He's a qualified accountant. The problem of Nigeria is not expertise. It's lack of character and lack of compassion. And in the calculation of the economy, don't let anybody tell you, I went to Harvard, I know economics. That's not the problem. A man whose monthly expenses with the entire family is 1 million naira and collects a salary of 20 million naira a month doesn't need an economist. Because all his expenses, rent, school fees, feeding the children, everything, is just 1 million. And he earns 20 million. Why he sits down that he cannot pay the rent, he cannot feed the children, and the family has to go and borrow money or beg for rice for the neighborhood? It's not an economic problem. It is a problem of lack of compassion, lack of character. So we will use compassion and character to manage the resources so that we will be like housewives managing the economy for the benefit of the children. The third problem we have is that we have a society that is man-dominated. Sociologists call it a patriarchal or patrilineal society. All authority is the hand of men. Formal authority. If you want to give your daughter in marriage, they say, where is the father? If you want to register your child in school, they say, where is the father? If you want to collect passport, where is the father? But the economy has made many of these fathers powerless because they have no jobs. And young people who are coming from school have no jobs. Whereas, when we did our economic plan, without spending government money, just making sure the government is stable and we minimize corruption and invite investors, we were able, when I was in Washington, on the job hunt for Nigerian youth and Nigerian people. I was in Washington for 9 days, and that was not the only thing I was doing. I was able to secure 30 million jobs by talking to 2,000 companies in Chamber of Commerce. So Nigeria hasn't got a problem of creating jobs for people. It's just that you don't have a responsible government in place. Now, the fourth thing we are going to do, we are going to bring responsible politics. You see, if you have a good government, and that good government runs the way we want to run it, but that government leaves without leaving behind responsible politics, it doesn't matter how much money you save. the next person will come with bad politics and ruin everything. So what we want to do now is to have responsible politics. What do I mean by responsible politics? It must be free from violence. 2, it must be free from excessive influence of money. If you remove violence, you remove money, without talking, 75% of the National Assembly will be women. Just remove violence and remove bribery and money from politics. I say go and contest. 75% of governors will be women. It is violence and money that's making women to go back in politics. Because how many women can open their eyes and tell talk, go and kill somebody? How many women can open their eyes and say, go and scatter that place? Women can't do that. And how many women can sit down and be looking for all kinds of money to use to do politics? What women invest in politics is their goodwill, their time, and their heart. So what we are going to do, and that's why you see us the way we are managing our campaign. We are managing our campaign so that we don't rely on money. Many of these people who are throwing money up and down, it's not as if they have more money than us. It is that in public life, goodwill is what you should seek. Don't buy people, don't buy attention. Use goodwill, make a good case to people. Then the last thing that we are going to bring for this country once and for all is unity. And if you want to know, the most united people in Nigeria are Nigerian women. I rarely see, of course there can be association, maybe Odo Women Association, ABUJA Women Association, they can be there. But majority of associations that women belong to, they cut across ethnicity. If they find themselves in a church, they don't ask, where are you from? They work together. And women are the reasons why Nigeria is united. Because Nigerian women, there are some countries where it doesn't happen. Nigerian women can leave their father and mother and go and marry somebody from far away. That is what is keeping Nigeria united. My wife is from a place where they don't speak my language at all. But she saw me and took pity on me and said, let me help this man. But she's even more integral. She knows more what happens in my family than I do. She knows more what happened in my hometown than I do. About 5 years ago, and every year since then, I was born in Ondo, and we are the owners of the place. We are the ruling house. And I've been born there from age 1 to age 50. I never received any award. But when I got married to my wife, before the first 5 years of marriage, the state government gave her an award. The kingdom gave her an award. Everybody's giving her an award. And last year, they gave me an award. I'm sure they just thought, since the wife is receiving an award, let there be peace in this house. Let me give the husband, as a compensation. And I found out something again. I left my hometown when I was 18 years old. And I could count how many times I visited. I said there was something in the royal family or something, I would come there. But when I got married, we started going 4 times a year. So that shows to you how grounded women. Some of these stories may look like folk stories, but they are the things missing in Nigeria. Imagine a parliament, a senate of 109, where the women are about 60 or 70. How would they forget their constituency? Because in that constituency, they will know that their grandmother is sick at home. There's no hospital. They will know that this is part of jobs. So what I want us to do now is for us to now go to the flip side of it. And that is the difficult question when you are talking to women. because, you know, we can be emotional. Is it possible for us to close our eyes, and this is my conclusion before I take questions. Is it possible for us to close our eyes to the evidence that is before us that we have not been having good government? We cannot close our eyes. So we must tell ourselves the truth, which is Article 1 of my political engagement. I will never tell any group any lie just to get applause or to get vote. I tell you the truth, you vote for me, we thank God. The truth is that we've not had good government of recent. The second question we ask ourselves, is it possible for anybody to come to power without women? So, it leads to the third question. Can women deny that they have a hand in the government we'll be having?
No, you can't.
So, if the government must change, the women must change their mind. We must stop judging. We must stop judging the color of the wrapper that the politician is giving. We must stop counting how many yards are they giving. We must stop collecting rice. We can collect rice, no problem. But the rice will not follow you to the ballot box. We must stop following people who are not following our interests. And lastly, like most things you do, because like I said, I grew up with my grandmother, great-grandmother. I don't count aunties. 3 things I learned about women. Women's patience never finishes. However angry, however terribly angry, never finishes. 2, women's wisdom never finishes. However complicated the situation is, if you listen to the woman at the end, she will tell you, because I do a lot of business, where my wife will say, they will just lose your money. Even if the business plan is fantastic. One time I was in Australia, my wife came to see me, and she came to the office, she spent like 5 minutes, then we went home. She said, I don't like the way that office is. You know, 2 years later, I found out exactly what she saw in 5 minutes, I couldn't see in 3 years. Lastly, women's money never finishes. I don't know where they keep it. So the way you take care of your family, the way you care, you take very careful calculations. Use that skill in choosing who will be president of Nigeria for the sake of your children. Thank you.